Imagine building a company that almost went bankrupt, a company that investors ignored, a company that nearly disappeared before most people had even heard its name. Now imagine that same company becoming one of the most valuable businesses in the world, more valuable than Amazon, more valuable than Google, more valuable than almost every company on earth. This isn't the story of a social media app or an electric car company. It's the story of a business that started by making computer graphics for video games, only to become the engine powering the artificial intelligence revolution. Today, nearly every major AI company relies on NVIDIA's technology, but none of this happened by accident. Behind the company's success are decades of bold decisions, painful failures, and one CEO who refused to give up. This is the incredible story of NVIDIA. 3 men, 1 impossible dream. Our story begins in California. The year was 1993. Personal computers were becoming more popular, but the internet was still in its early days. Artificial intelligence wasn't a household term, and smartphones didn't even exist. One evening, 3 engineers met at a Denny's restaurant in Silicon Valley. Their names were Jensen Huang, Chris Melchowski, and Curtis Preem. Over coffee and pancakes, they discussed a simple question: what will computers need in the future? Most companies were focused on making computers faster, but these 3 engineers believed something different. They believed graphics would become one of the most important parts of computing. It sounded risky. At the time, very few people cared about high-performance graphics, but they believed one day computers would display realistic worlds, movies, scientific simulations, and experiences nobody had imagined yet. That dinner conversation changed everything. Before leaving the restaurant, they made a decision. They would start a company. That company would become NVIDIA. None of them knew they had just begun one of the greatest business stories in modern history. The first years were a nightmare. Starting a company is exciting. Keeping it alive is much harder. NVIDIA had almost no money. Every dollar mattered. The company hired a small team and worked tirelessly to build its first graphics chips. The problem? The market moved incredibly fast. Technology changed almost every few months. If NVIDIA made one mistake, the company could disappear. Their first products failed to impress many customers. Competitors were already established. Investors began asking difficult questions. Was NVIDIA solving a real problem, or was it chasing a dream nobody needed? Inside the company, pressure was building. Employees worked long hours. Cash reserves kept shrinking. Some believed NVIDIA would soon run out of money. Jensen Huang later reflected that the company came frighteningly close to failure. In its early years, for a young startup, it was a terrifying place to be. The decision that saved NVIDIA. Then everything changed. Instead of giving up, the company decided to take a massive gamble. Rather than making ordinary graphics chips, NVIDIA wanted to build something the world had never seen before: a graphics processing unit, or GPU. Unlike traditional processors, a GPU could perform many calculations at the same time. That made graphics smoother, games faster, and computers far more powerful for certain types of work. In 1999, NVIDIA introduced the GeForce 256. It was promoted as the world's first GPU. Gamers loved it. Reviewers praised it. Sales exploded. For the first time, NVIDIA wasn't fighting to survive. It was leading an entirely new category. The company had escaped disaster, but the biggest surprise was still decades away. The discovery nobody expected. At first, NVIDIA believed it was building better gaming technology. But somewhere inside universities and research laboratories, scientists began using NVIDIA's GPUs for something completely different. Instead of creating beautiful graphics, they used them to solve incredibly complex mathematical problems. Researchers discovered that GPUs were exceptionally good at handling huge numbers of calculations simultaneously. That made them useful for fields like weather prediction, scientific simulations, and eventually, artificial intelligence. At first, NVIDIA didn't realize how important this discovery would become, but Jensen Huang did something many CEOs would not have done. He listened. Instead of dismissing these researchers as a tiny niche, NVIDIA invested in software tools that made its GPUs easier for scientists and developers to use. One of the most important of those tools was CUDA, a programming platform introduced in 2006. It allowed developers to unlock the full power of NVIDIA's hardware for tasks far beyond gaming. It wasn't an overnight success, but years later, that decision would become one of the most valuable investments in the company's history. The bet that almost nobody understood? By the mid-2000s, NVIDIA had become one of the biggest names in gaming. Most companies would have been satisfied, but Jensen Huang wasn't. He believed the GPU could do far more than power video games. It could change computing itself. There was just one problem. Almost nobody agreed with him. The idea of using graphics processors for scientific research or artificial intelligence seemed strange. Many experts believed traditional CPUs would remain the heart of computing. Still, Jensen pushed forward. NVIDIA invested hundreds of millions of dollars into improving its GPUs and expanding CUDA, even though there was no guarantee the investment would pay off. For years, it would look like a gamble with no reward. Wall Street focused on quarterly profits, but NVIDIA focused on the future. And sometimes the biggest rewards come to those who are willing to wait. The AI revolution begins. In 2012, a breakthrough changed everything. A team of researchers entered an AI competition called ImageNet. Their neural network dramatically outperformed every other competitor. The secret wasn't just the software. It was the hardware. They trained their AI using NVIDIA GPUs. Suddenly, researchers around the world realized these chips could process enormous amounts of data much faster than traditional processors. Universities began buying NVIDIA hardware. Research labs followed. Then came the tech giants: Google, Microsoft, Meta, Amazon. Each of them began investing heavily in artificial intelligence. And they all needed one thing: more NVIDIA chips. The company had spent nearly 2 decades preparing for a moment nobody could have predicted. ChatGPT changed everything. Then came November 2022. OpenAI launched ChatGPT. Within days, millions of people were using artificial intelligence to write essays, answer questions, generate code, and create content. The world suddenly realized AI wasn't science fiction anymore. It was here. Companies everywhere rushed to build their own AI systems. But powerful AI requires enormous computing power. And that computing power came from NVIDIA. Demand exploded almost overnight. Orders poured in from technology companies around the world. Data centers expanded at record speed. Every major AI company wanted more NVIDIA GPUs. But there weren't enough to go around. The shortage only made NVIDIA's products even more valuable. The company that once struggled to survive had become the most important supplier in the AI revolution. But every empire faces new challenges. Powerful competitors are investing billions. Governments are paying closer attention to AI. And one question remains: can NVIDIA stay on top? Or is its biggest challenge still ahead? The battle isn't over. For a while, it looked like NVIDIA had no competition. Its chips became the gold standard for training artificial intelligence. The biggest technology companies were spending billions of dollars buying NVIDIA hardware. But history teaches us one important lesson: no company stays on top forever. Soon, the competition began fighting back. AMD introduced new AI chips. Intel invested billions to regain its position. Even companies like Google, Amazon, Microsoft, and Meta started designing some of their own AI chips for specific workloads. Why? Because depending too heavily on one supplier is risky. If NVIDIA couldn't produce enough chips, the entire AI industry could slow down. The race had begun. And this time, the prize wasn't video games, it was the future of artificial intelligence. The biggest threat to NVIDIA. You might think NVIDIA's biggest threat is another company, but it's actually much more complicated. Governments around the world have become increasingly interested in advanced AI technology. Some countries have introduced export restrictions on certain high-end AI chips. These rules affect where some of NVIDIA's most advanced products can be sold. At the same time, building cutting-edge chips has become more expensive than ever. A single next-generation chip can require years of research and billions of dollars in investment. One mistake, one delayed product, or one major technological breakthrough from a competitor could change everything. That's why NVIDIA continues investing heavily in research, because standing still is the fastest way to fall behind. The leadership of Jensen Huang. Behind every great company, there's usually a leader who sees the world differently. For NVIDIA, that leader is Jensen Huang. Unlike many CEOs, he didn't focus only on quarterly profits. He believed in preparing for opportunities that might not arrive for years. When researchers wanted software to make GPUs easier to program, NVIDIA built CUDA. When AI researchers needed more powerful hardware, NVIDIA kept improving its chips. When competitors questioned the strategy, the company kept investing. Some of those decisions looked risky at the time. Today, they look visionary. Jensen Huang once said that companies should embrace difficult challenges because they create opportunities that others avoid. That mindset became part of NVIDIA's culture. Lessons every entrepreneur can learn. NVIDIA's story isn't just about computer chips. It's about building a business that lasts. Lesson number 1, think long-term. Many companies chase quick profits. NVIDIA spent years preparing for a future that hadn't arrived yet. Lesson number 2, keep innovating. The company never stopped improving. Every new generation of technology built on the last. Lesson number 3, listen to your customers. Scientists and researchers discovered new uses for GPUs. Instead of ignoring them, NVIDIA supported them. That decision helped shape the AI revolution. And finally, never underestimate patience. Success rarely happens overnight. NVIDIA spent decades building the foundation that made its recent growth possible. Back in 1993, 3 engineers sat inside a small restaurant, sharing ideas over coffee. They had no billion-dollar investors, no guarantee of success, no way of knowing that one day their company would help power artificial intelligence across the globe. What they had was belief that technology could change the future, and the courage to keep building, even when nobody else could see the vision. Today, NVIDIA's chips help scientists develop life-saving medicines. Engineers build autonomous machines. Researchers explore new discoveries. And millions of people use AI tools every day. The company that once made graphics for gamers ended up helping transform the future of computing. But perhaps the greatest lesson isn't about artificial intelligence. It's about seeing opportunity where everyone else sees uncertainty. Because sometimes the companies that change the world don't start with the biggest budgets. They start with the biggest ideas. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Business Chronicles. Every week, we uncover the untold stories behind the world's biggest companies, the visionary entrepreneurs who built them, and the business battles that changed history. Until next time, keep learning, keep building, and remember, every business has a story. Every empire has a secret. This is Business Chronicles. Thanks for watching.